Gentlemen and ladies, welcome to Westmarch Workshop. The first rule of Westmarch Workshop is you do not talk about Westmarch Workshop. The second rule of Westmarch Workshop is forget about the first rule. Tell everyone you know about Westmarch Workshop. We're on YouTube and stream, Twitter, Facebook, tell your friends. The third rule of Westmarch Workshop, if someone yells stop, goes limp, or taps out, the podcast is over. It hasn't happened yet, but if anyone ever does, we'll just end the podcast for safety reasons. Fourth rule, only 2 guys to a podcast. Fifth rule, one podcast at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no pants. Sorry, that's just a standard rule. We never wear pants. This applies to viewers as well. So no pants. Seventh rule, the podcast will go on for as long as it has to. And the eighth and final rule, if this is your first night at Westmarch Workshop, you have to fight. Or listen to the podcast, of course.
I like the last one. Let's make them fight.
Yeah, that's it. We're just throwing you in a ring. This intro actually wasn't a parody of anything. These are just the new rules of Westmarch Workshop. Any parody is just complete coincidence.
I liked one of the comments, and his name was Deckard Cain.
Right.
His name was Deckard Cain.
I like it. There's all kinds of crossover between Fight Club and Diablo, it turns out.
That was a good one. I enjoyed it. We got some
worked out all right.
Movie things for our opening, so we have to continue going on. Now we've raised the bar a little bit. I have to come up with something for next week.
I can't wait to see what we have for the intro on like episode 100, because it's gonna be weird. That's all I can say. We will be out of good ideas at that point, right?
Episode 100 is just going to be the intros for all the prior 99 episodes.
That's the entire episode. Is all intro episode. We're sitting this one out.
Yep, that is. We look back on all of our prior episodes, and then bam, that's it. That's all that there is.
I think it's good. So
we take that episode off.
There you go.
We take our YouTube money and go to Tahiti.
Every 100 episodes, we get 1 week off.
Yep.
It's like a fair every 2 years. Anyways, enough about our podcast. How was your week in gaming?
My week in gaming actually is pretty good. It all kind of got concentrated Monday night. So before I started writing up the patch notes, or not the patch notes. Yeah, I write the patch notes.
Wow.
Before I started writing up the show notes for it, I had like 7 legendaries drop in one game. It was ridiculous. And then after that, with only, I think that night of running rifts, I only had like 300 shards. I only ran a couple of rifts. And I got 4 legendaries out of it. One of them being a Mage Feast. Mage Feast. Yeah, Mage Feast. I am just starting.
You've been playing WoW a lot, right? Someone just summoned you a Mage Feast.
I had to log on to WoW on Sunday because I had hit the 30-day mark, and one of the officers in my guild said, "Hey, I'm getting the reminder to kick you as the officer because you've came up as, MIA." Because they have a built-in system now that after a certain amount of time, if you're the guild leader and you don't log in, it will grant one of the officers the ability to take over the guild.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but luckily, all the officers are really good friends of mine. I played with them for like 5 or 6 years, if some of them even longer than that. So it's like that was the first time I logged into WoW in a very long time. But Mage Fists, it was Dex, Vit, attack speed, and critical hit damage. And so I just turned the Vit into critical hit chance, and I think I only had to re-roll it like 10 times in order to get the crit chance on it. And so now they're rocking trifecta Mage Fists. It's awesome.
Not bad at all. Did you see the data mined weight for each stat you can enchant on an item?
I saw it briefly, but it was a lot of numbers, so I didn't go through all of it. Yeah,
they did it. It was on Diablo fans, I think, on someone on their forums had done it.
Yep. Yeah, it was a little guide that they had done, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he goes through and he kind of explains how to do the math, but you can figure out, if you look at the post on Diablo fans, what the chance is of getting a certain affix based on the item that you're re-rolling. A little complicated, but you could do it.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of people had noticed it already, that obviously you get ones a lot more often than you get others. And so there's certain certain affixes that you go for that were coming up again and again and again. Or before, I think it was 2.0.4 when they made it to where you could actually get the doubles. So you go through and it's like, oh, look at that. I got armor twice. Well, reroll again.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Well,
So,
it made sense to me because there's all these stats like chance to blind on hit, chance for bleed, chance to fear that you hardly ever see, and yeah, sure enough, it's on the lowest weight category on the list.
So yeah, that was nice. That was nice. I got it relatively quickly, and crit chance is one of the lower weighted ones, not the lowest weighted, but is definitely for some of the main ones. It's down there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the other things I got, a lot of it was just inconsequential stuff. Some of it were nice upgrades for my monk. Most of it got turned into Forgotten Souls. From there is just kind of going running rifts and doing general things. The only other thing in gaming really was, of course, the Destiny Alpha, which that ended. Had a ton of fun with it. Though as I started to remember how to play first-person shooters, I started seeing more merit behind some of the complaints people had with the game. Like, definitely at first it was just, oh, this is cool. I haven't played a shooter in years, whatever. And then by the end of it, it's like, I really wish that I could just see 5 degrees more with having that field of view scaler that people were asking for. So there's some improvements. Overall, the game was still fun. And then on the super nerdy side of things, my local hobby shop, we are starting our first Warhammer 40K and Fantasy Escalation League. And so help put that together over the weekend, and looking forward to entering in that.
So I imagine this is just like fantasy football, but with Warhammer.
But with Warhammer, yeah. Only you don't put together your roster of teams. You actually have to put together your own points and go and actually vie for victory directly. You have to kill your opponent.
Okay, so like fantasy football, but you're killing everyone else in the league.
Pretty much.
Sounds like my kind of fantasy football.
Oh yeah. If you want those points, you got to kill those evil.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds fair.
How was your week?
Well, I played some more on my hardcore witch doctor, which I'm loving. But I must have gotten a little bored with hardcore because I decided to turn it up to Torment 1. I should say I got a little bored of normal, right? Because that's what you do. You play on normal until you have the gear to do T1. No real point in doing the other ones unless you need some gold or experience. And yeah, I was a little bored just face rolling things. So I'm like, I'm gonna try T1, and it looked like I could do it all right. I only had, I think, 4 mil toughness when I went up to T1.
Yeah,
I had some scary moments.
You would.
Yeah, I'm up to like 6 mil toughness now. It's not as bad, but there was one time I was playing last night, and my WifeCon, did not know that I was playing Diablo. So she was probably concerned when I was just like, oh no, oh no, oh my god, oh god, oh god. And she's like, what? I thought for sure I was dead. I was like, well, I was just really dumb, and I went to T1, and now I'm gonna die. There goes my character. Was able to get out of it. Spirit walked out of the frozen that almost killed me. But then didn't learn my lesson. I just stayed on T1 and continued getting lucky. I'm still alive, and I think I'm just gonna play it out. Because like when seasons come out, I'm gonna re-roll. Might as well stay on T1. If I die, I die.
Yeah. It's definitely you play for the rush anyway, so that's definitely kind of pushing that rush more to the foreground for certain. With 6 million toughness on Witch Doctor, yeah, you're pretty much there. I guess the only thing is, out of that toughness, how much is HP and how much is actually armor and resist?
Yeah, too much of it is HP. I think I have like 600 health. So
oh yeah, that would give you a false sense of security. So
right, and I'm only at like 10k healing, so.
Well, that's not too bad. I think my Demon Hunter is only like 13k healing. You don't need that much at Torment 1, but yeah, 6 to 7 million toughness will get you in a pretty stable area. You can survive pretty much anything, but you want most of that to be in your resists and not so much in your HP.
Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, I'm really liking Witch Doctor. It's nice because if I'm in trouble, I can just step back, let my pets take the damage. Still spamming some Acid Cloud. And what was that?
I was just going to ask, have you been playing mainly solo or group games?
I've been playing mostly solo. a little bit with my friend Mikey, but usually I'm only getting on for a little bit at a time. I just have little pockets of time, so I'll get on, play a little bit, get off, and I don't want to like get people involved in my games and then have to leave them. But it looks like playing solo might actually be viable. Not getting into it yet. We'll get into it when we talk about the upcoming patch. But
Yeah.
until recently, it's been very punishing to play solo opposed to group.
Yeah, that was actually a conversation that I had with some of our listeners over on Twitter today. Was public games on hardcore. I think I mentioned this a couple episodes ago. They're really not that bad. So you might be surprised if you find yourself going into like just a Torment 1 public game. That most people there can pull their own weight, so you can clear pretty efficiently, and gives you a little bit more survivability because the enemy's attention is being divided up between 4 people instead of just 1.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to try that. Most of my clan plays softcore, and that is what I normally play. But I think I'm at least temporarily converted over hardcore side. I'm excited when PTR comes out. I think I might try a Barb or Crusader, one of the classes I haven't played much, and stick with hardcore.
Yeah, it's definitely something to do. I know you haven't been streaming for a while, but that might be like the little kick that you need, so that way your death in hardcore will be immortalized on the interwebs.
Yeah, it probably won't be. As people know, I haven't been streaming because my computer freezes, and I think I will stream when the patch comes out, but I'll probably die when my computer freezes. So as soon as you see my stream go out, okay, well, there.
Everybody
there goes
rush.
his
He's gonna
character.
die in 45 minutes. He's gonna disconnect.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it just seems like it sounds so much more exciting to be rushing through a tiered rift as fast as you can on hardcore.
Yeah, and Uggsy in the chat here was just going and saying that it's gonna, it will put a whole different spin on it, because you have to be efficient, but you have to know when to stop.
Yeah, you have that
like
balance there.
Yeah, so it makes you look at the game a whole different light in almost anything. But it will be interesting. It'll be cool. I can't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said earlier, let's wait until we get into the news.
Yeah, but speaking. Oh wait, sorry. Before we get into that, Olav or in chat, Olam Veg had asked me last week about my StarCraft 2 mod that I've been working on, and I finally did get back into it. So just a really quick update. I've come up with version 2, I'm working on it, and I'll have something to share with you guys in the next month or two. Really excited to get back into the StarCraft editor.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I remember playing, I don't know, it's been a couple months since I last played the build that you have. I don't know how much you've changed since then.
That's right, yeah. Was it multiplayer when you played it, or did you have to play on your own?
It was still solo.
Oh yeah, so it's multiplayer now. I got some feedback on it, and I'm completely redoing some stuff, which is hard to do when you've put in like a ton of work into a system to just throw it away. But that's the process of iteration, I guess. So yeah, I'll have a new version, throw it up on Battle.net, and let some of you guys play it too. It should be fun.
Awesome.
But should we just start right off with the patch? That was the big piece of news we got this week. You had something else in mind.
Yeah, I say I would say let's lead them on a little bit with some other things, but there's not really too much else. I mean, the only other big thing that I can note of as far as like news goes was just the thing that you already mentioned with the Diablo fans going and mentioning the they kind of reverse engineered or data mined the enchanting chances. That was kind of it.
Yeah, we had the upcoming changes to punishment and one with everything, but we can kind of talk about those as we talk about the patch, right?
Yeah, because that's all tied into 2.1. So yeah. Unfortunately, I can't tease you all and just leave information and force you to listen longer. So I guess we have to get into it now, don't we?
Yes, we do. I am so excited about this patch. I don't think there's anyone that's not very excited about this patch.
Unless you don't like rifts or seasons. Then you wouldn't be interested about this patch.
Then we're not interested in you. That's what I have to say. No, I'm just kidding. We're very interested in... Wait, that came out... Never mind. Forget about it. Let's just get right into it. Maybe we could just go kind of quickly... we can go kind of quickly through the things that people know about and then get into detail about some of these new things that they've revealed. Of course, we know about seasons. Everyone, I think, is familiar with seasons, the idea of ladders. It's going to be a new server you can play on. Occasionally they'll reset. The idea is to just compete against other players, keep track of a leaderboard, see who's doing how well, and just get a fresh economy with occasional restarts.
Yep.
Right,
and as far as leaderboards go, there's going to be 3 leaderboards that they've announced so far: achievements, conquests, and greater rifts. And they have flat out said there's not going to be any leaderboard for Paragon levels.
Yeah, I don't mind that, because it seems like the big reason for someone winning the Paragon level race is time invested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I want to give credit to anyone who puts a ton of time in. That's part of ladders, but investing time is going to help you do well on all the other leaderboards as well, right? The more time you put in, the better you can do on tiered rifts, the more likely you are you can do conquests. I'm fine with not having a leaderboard that tracks just that flat Paragon number and really gives you an advantage on the leaderboards for playing well and not just for putting in a lot of time.
Yeah, and that actually goes to some comments that Flux from Ink Gamers made last week, going and talking about, like, in Diablo 2, the very first person on the very first ladder to reach 99, it was a shared account, not so much botted, but it was a group of people that played the account 24/7. It was always being played by a different group of people every single time. So it was just, it kind of cheapens that accomplishment of, congratulations, you're the first Paragon 800, because there were 7 people playing the account continuously, or you were botted. It's like, it just nullifies any sense of accomplishment. And then everyone else that might rank in underneath them, 1, well, you weren't the first, so your accomplishment is lessened, and then 2, well, how do we know that you didn't bot either?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think we'll still have that issue. We'll still have botters, we'll still have people sharing the accounts, but they'll still also have to do some hard things. There's a lot of incentive, or there's a lot of reward for people who can, do the conquests, clear the rifts quickly, despite what gear they might have at the time.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things is the new term, like the new terms have kind of been thrown out there. If you haven't been keeping up with the news, or this is the first that you're really being able to get into the information for 2.1, Greater Rifts is the new name for tiered rifts. So everything that you remember or know about with tiered rifts, it's now called Greater Rifts, and that's the name that they're going to be used going forward, which I guess is a bit better sounding than tiered rifts. Just having it greater rifts, it gives it that instant knowledge of what it is. Well, it's a greater rift, so that means it's better, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And they still have tiers of greater rifts. Still using that term, just pretty much the same thing.
Yep. And then conquests are like uber achievements, and there's going to be a very limited amount every season. They said they're going to be somewhere between 10 and 15 of these conquests, and they're limited to 1,000 completions. So it's going to be the first 1,000 individuals to complete a conquest. They'll be given, they have their own leaderboard, and their names will be written on there, and then that's it. No one ever can complete those conquests ever again, and you'll have your name will be immortal on the internet.
Yay. You know what? Yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of these conquests. Some of the examples they gave was killing Mothael on Torment 6 at level 70, completing Act 1 through 5 in an hour or less. I love these ideas, these super hard challenges that combine both gear and skill, but I wish there was a reward. I mean, if you're only going to let 1,000 people get it, why not give them, like, a charm or something?
Yeah. Though, I mean, it's the same thing with, like, achievements, and I'm not a hardcore achievement hunter, but I do enjoy going after achievements and kind of rounding out my list. So that is something that the conquests actually do have a draw for me, even if it's not so much of, oh yeah, I made it to the leaderboard. It's more, it's just like, these are really difficult achievements, like feats of strength. And, I want to be one of the ones that actually completes it. And even if I don't make it to the top 1,000, I might still try and do it just to say I got it done.
Yeah, I guess I'm the other side of that, because I've never really cared for achievements. I've never been one to do things just to do them, and I would love to go after these conquests, but I can't see myself pulling myself away from doing tiered rifts, which do give you loot, and it looks like comparable loot. to go and do
Yeah.
conquests just to... Because, I mean, tiered rifts, you're getting on a leaderboard and you're getting loot.
Hmm.
It seems like they're missing an opportunity here to give players more options on how to gear up, kind of like you have in like World of Warcraft. A lot of different play styles that all lead to character progression.
Yeah, potentially. So it's hard to say. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
We did get some more info about greater rifts as well.
Yeah. So I guess that's going to be the next big topic. There is just actually going into what a greater rift entails and how you can go about getting into one.
Yeah. So I guess we've said it before. I think most people know, but just for anyone who doesn't, when you complete a regular rift in 2.1, there's a chance that you'll get a greater rift token. You use that to open a tier 1 greater rift, and then you're guaranteed after completing that one to get the next tier key. And it might be greater rift tier 2, or if you complete it fast enough, it might be tier 3 or tier 4. I'm not sure how many you can skip, but if you go fast enough, you can skip some. And yeah, there's a few differences between regular rifts and these greater rifts. Of course, you'll have a timer that you're going by. If you don't complete it in a certain time, then GTFO.
That is one new piece of information that we learned. Is before it was always just kind of there was, it was that competitive aspect. Well, I managed to get the rift done in 10 minutes. Well, I got the rift done in 7. Now, you're not actually going to be given any free time. You actually have a timer, and if you don't complete the entire rift, you don't kill the rift guardian by the time that timer runs out, then that's it. You're over. You get kicked out, and you got nothing for your troubles.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that was new information, because I guess I just always assumed it would work that way, but definitely glad it works that way. The one thing I was excited to see is that monsters won't drop loot. All your loot will come from the Rift Guardian at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Which is nice, because otherwise you'd probably just skip the loot anyways, right? You don't want to stop for loot to hurt your time.
Yeah, it'd be like one of those ones where it's like, oh, legendary drop. No, don't have time. Gotta keep going.
Gotta finish the rift, yeah.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Just keep murdering.
Yeah, and so that's pretty cool. But then they'll make up for it by the Rift Guardian is going to drop a lot more loot. Apparently a lot more loot.
You'll have a higher chance for legendary items and the such.
Yeah, so kind of all the loot from the Rift is kind of being pushed into the Guardian. Now, I'm sure he's not going to drop something appropriate to all of the monsters that you've killed while you were in there, but it seems that it's going to be, more than your usual Guardian.
Yes, and this won't be relevant to anyone who's not watching this live, but we just got bombed by DatMods.
Oh, look at that.
Who's an awesome streamer. If you guys haven't checked out DatMods, he lives here in Vegas, where I live, coolest city in the world, and really awesome monk. Paragon 570 now. So
wow.
Thanks for stopping by, guys. That's yeah.
Rocking a monk when people would call him crazy.
We either got a lot of people over here or 3 people that are typing really quickly. So thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have 512 now. We just went from 95 to 512. So welcome to the podcast. Also, a change they're making to both the tiered rifts and regular rifts is the different monsters will give you a different amount of progress in the bar. So right now, before the patch goes in, killing an elite mob gives you, 0.1%, just like killing a tiny little white mob will give you 0.1%. But in 2.1, elite mobs will give you a lot more than little white guys, so you won't be incentivized to skip elite packs or big mobs. It'll even out, hopefully.
Yeah. And also, as you go through and that kind of double-edged sword, you go through and you get a level that's filled with nothing but Shadow Fiend, because it's just, I'm going to finish this rift really quickly, but I'm also not going to get any items or experience for every one of these things that I kill. And so now I guess you'll be able to continue on more with your rift because they won't count for as much, so you don't miss out on some of that experience or items from that particular rift. But now it makes it longer because it's not going to give you as much experience or as much completion for the rift itself while you kill through those packs and packs of those little 2 HP annoying little pieces of shadow crap.
Yeah, I think definitely a good change. The few other small changes: you can't resurrect from your corpse in a greater rift. You have to go back to the last checkpoint, and you can't teleport to other players or ban to other players.
I'm sorry, Rifted Forward, but it was nice knowing you. Have a nice day. You will always be remembered. So
Well,
it it does make me wonder if they'll make this change onto regular rifts, or if I guess if people will even bother with regular rifts with greater rifts. Well, I guess they have to in order to get keys.
well, yeah. Another change coming to both greater rifts and regular rifts is everyone will need a rift fragment. So Rifted
Oh,
Forward will be dead anyways.
I didn't realize that applied to regular rifts as well.
Yeah, so let me make sure. Let's see. Some of the changes in Greater Rifts are also coming to Nephilim Rifts. And yes, one of the examples, every player will need to have a rift fragment to open the rift, to enter it, rather. But you only need one.
Oh,
Just one rift fragment. So I think this is an awesome change. I mean, I know a lot of players are going to be upset.
yeah.
Rifted Forward communities are going to hate this. But you were too incentivized to play in a group on adventure mode before.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do you need less rift fragments in a group, but you're also getting rift fragments slower when you're solo because of bounties. Now you're still getting rift fragments slower, but you won't need less fragments in a group anymore, and you can finally play solo and not feel like you're getting uber punished.
Yeah, so that is definitely a very interesting change, and that completely kills the Rifted Forward community, which we talked about in one of the previous podcasts is kind of on the fence with it being exploitive and not, because it was something that everyone buys into. It's the person running the rifts knows what it is that they get out of it, and so they know that they're doing most of the legwork, but just they're getting the keys out of it. So now they're losing out of this change as well because they don't get free riff runs anymore. They actually have to go back to doing bounties. It of course hurts the openers a lot more because I guess it doesn't really hurt them so much at all because they still end up having to put keys out in it anyways. But
Yeah,
now the runner has no incentive to want to do it. They just, I guess that's what's gonna kill it. I'm sure that there will be Rifted Forward communities anyways that still will continue with people that just like doing it. Because you kind of have to like doing it regardless. But what we know of it today is gone out the window.
yeah. But I like this. You can go do a round of bounties and then just do like 5 rifts if you want. Don't have to farm bounties forever. I mean, I personally enjoy rifts a lot more than bounties, so I won't mind less bounties when I'm playing solo.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. There was something else I was gonna say on that one rift per person, and I can't remember. Too much Newcastle, I guess. Taking all my memories with it.
Uh-huh. Sober Archon is not here this week. Sorry.
No, yeah, he couldn't be here. He had plans. Yeah, alternate ego drunk Archon taking his place.
Yeah, and then some of that what we talked about last week is now with the greater rifts you have the legendary gems. We got just a little bit more information, thanks to Steven's stream last week with Travis Day, Monstrous, and Evolistus. We found out that the legendary gems are going to be just for rings and amulets, but now we know a little bit more because the legendary gem you have a chance to drop within the greater rift, but it seems that the further you progress in the greater rift, it will upgrade that legendary gem for you. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's actually going to drop more that you can combine. It just seems that as you progress further, at some point, it's just all of a sudden, ding, your gem leveled up, and its bonuses increase. So we'll have to see what that means, what that entails.
Yeah, have they said where you get the gems? Do you get the legendary gems only from Greater Rifts, or can you get them anywhere and then you only upgrade them in Greater Rifts?
It seems that it's like the exact wording on it is greater rifts are truly a challenge, and conquering such challenges should be met with great reward. To provide a unique and upgradable incentive, we're introducing legendary gems. So, to me, that means they'll only be available in the Greater Rift. So you'll just have a chance that when you kill the Guardian in one of the Greater Rift tiers, that you'll get the gem.
Yeah. And they haven't shown any of the legendary gems yet. They say they're still undergoing significant iteration. So they're not even going to be on the PTR when it first comes out.
Yep.
But on Diablo fans, they were having some fun making up some fake legendary gems, just coming up with their own. And some of them seem kind of interesting. I had said last week I think it would be best if the legendary gems gave you both a positive and a negative change. The example I gave was your pets do twice as much damage, but you do half as much damage. And then just use them more as like ways to specialize your character.
Yeah, that would be some things that I would enjoy seeing. But I also wonder now that they add this other thing in where the gist of these gyms are infinitely upgradable.
Yes.
How do you make something infinitely upgradable that's not going to become overpowered? Obviously, that kind of throws out, crit damage, critical hit,
no,
attack
not necessarily.
speed.
We already have an infinitely upgradable system in the game that gives you crit chance, attack speed.
Oh.
Paragon.
How so? Yeah, but they cap.
No, oh yeah, I guess those stats do cap at a certain point.
That's not infinitely upgradable. There's a cap to that. You can't
well, no,
get
I mean,
beyond a certain point.
Well, the Paragon system itself is infinitely upgradable.
Well, yeah, the Paragon system itself, but that only applies to your main stats. So it's like Dexterity and Vitality are the only ones that are like truly infinite that you go from there.
You just assume everyone's using Dexterity here. I am offended as a player of a Wizard and a Witch Doctor.
Okay, I'm sorry. Not everyone uses Dexterity. The best people use Dexterity.
Burn.
Which also, one of the other things to note, Dexterity is getting a huge buff in 2.1. Instead of granting dodge chance, it's now going to grant armor. Amazing. It is wonderful. It is beautiful. Blizzard, I love you. I love you so much. Thank you.
Okay, a very needed change. A change that I think is a long time coming. Doesn't it feel a little lazy to you, though? Like, this has been a problem for a while now. We finally get an answer, and it's like, yeah, it gives armor.
Yeah, but
Whatever.
It's like one of those ones. It's like it's lazy in one respect, but it's like what else are you going to do that's going to provide the same benefit as armor or resists?
No, you're
because
right.
they provide the same level of damage reduction per point as each other, whereas with Dexterity you get crap that doesn't even protect you against most of the damage that most of the unavoidable damage in the game. Yeah. Thunderstorm, molten, fire. Well, I guess you can dodge fire chains, but bad example. Forget that I said that. But it's just some of those things is just what do you do? What do you do?
No, it's a good point. I can't come with a better system in my head, but it's just when I read it, it was like, oh yeah, now strength and dex give armor and int gives all res. It's just like. It just felt like they gave up. Like they've been trying to fix this whole time, and they're like, you know what? F it. It gives armor.
There's only so many ways that you can write 6. It's 6, 3 times 2, half a dozen. Yeah. But you end up with 6 no matter what it is. So it's just, they could spend a lot more extra time and come up with something where it still gives you a lower percentage of dodge and then does a certain percentage of damage reduction on non-dodged attacks and all this other types of stuff. Or they just give you armor. Yeah, so it's like development time. It comes down to one of your mantras of everything has a development cost. So what is it going to be? They could come up with a more interesting system, or they could develop some other mechanics to use inside of tier glyphs. So
no, yeah, it's just you know what, you make a good point. I think it probably was the right call. It was the kind of change I would expect from. No, I'm not going to name development companies. I didn't expect it from Blizzard because usually they're more creative, but I am excited about the change, and I think monks and demon hunters are going to be better for it.
Well,
but this
go back to the original point about the legendary gems. But I guess my thing is like with that infinite upgradability. If it's something that you can upgrade infinitely, what can it be? Like gold find percentage? Is it going to be maybe armor? It's like you upgrade it and it gives you 1 armor or 10 armor. Something ridiculously small.
I think it can be so many things. There's so many. Anything that doesn't have a cap. Like you mentioned crit chance before. Like you can't get more than 100% crit.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let players get 100% crit. So you have to cap that, obviously. But anything else, like elemental damage, straight damage boost, elite damage, like none of those things need a cap. It's just about how powerful do you want to make legendary gems?
That is true. I would like to see someone with, like an 800% crit damage, gem in their ring. That would be, and that would actually,
you could.
Yeah, That'd be interesting, because at that point, it's like, how much more crit damage do you need? It would get to a point where that 50% crit damage on your ring really doesn't do all that much. You'd be better served with, like, just a flat damage on it, because of how much is being multiplied by the rest of your crit damage, and would free up some of the itemization on other items.
Yeah.
So,
no, it makes sense.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, I didn't really think of that until you mentioned it.
In my head, it has to be something new. It can't be the same affixes you can get on any piece of gear. It can't be the same things you might see on any legendary item, because if it was, you could solve the same issue from itemization. Like, somehow legendary gems are solving a new issue, right?
Yeah.
From what we know about the dev team, if they're going to introduce a new system, it's solving a new issue. It's bringing something new to the game. So I think whatever it is that they grant you, it has to be something new, and that's part of the reason why I lean towards the specialization.
Yeah, and as Droth Vader is pointing out in chat, infinite doesn't really mean infinite, of course. It's everything is hard-coded. There's going to be a cap at there some point. But just when they use those terms, it makes me think of a really high cap, kind of like the Paragon 800 being the soft cap for Paragon levels. It's going to be something that's just going to be a ridiculously high number. What can you really do with that that's not going to break things?
Yeah.
So maybe it could be just something interesting like skill damage, like you mentioned, elemental damage. It increases lashing tail kick or cinder arrow or earthquake damage by 0.5% every time you level it up.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, I don't know if they said exactly how it levels up, but maybe if the highest tier you've gotten to is 47, maybe it only levels up if you get to 48.
That could be true.
And so it's capped by how, and then that way someone could see like, oh wow, this monk's lashing tail kick is insane. They must have gotten so far in the tiered rifts.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the other side of that is going to be, I wonder if they'll introduce like new gyms with new affixes in the later seasons, and how that will kind of play into it. Because you spent all season going through and making like this super awesome gym. I got to tier 87, and then the season ends, and now I can start a new season. But I also have this amazing legendary gym sitting on my character that folded back with all of my non-season characters.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be really cool.
Yeah. It creates some little bit of dynamics there about how people want to approach things, whether they want to continue on with seasons or give their non-season characters a little bit of love every once in a while.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard decision for me, for sure. I am so excited about this patch. I think, not that this patch is going to change the game overnight, but I think this is the start of some good things.
I don't know. The greater rifts and the season things, that is a game changer. That is going to kind of be a really huge test for its ability to continue to bring in people and keep the community engaged in between theoretical expansions in the future, or theoretical additional content patches outside of just new seasons. Because they don't really have to do a massive amount of game changes. Like when season 2 starts, obviously there'll be new monsters, maybe a new rift level, maybe obviously new items, but they don't really have to do skill balances or changes. They don't have to add in anything new to the game when they create season 2. They could have season 2 be like 2.1.1, not 2.2 or 2.11.
Yeah, they could. I mean, I hope they don't go that route. I mean, keep in mind, we never even had a 1.1. Really weird, bizarre thing no one ever talks about. Never had a 1.1. We just, for some reason, didn't use the correct decimal places before Reaper Souls. But that point aside, I'm really excited about Seasons and Tiered Rifts, but I hope, deep in my heart, that this is the start of big things. Because if this is the new way of them looking at the game, as far as leaderboards and giving players a lot of different options as how they gear up, how they play the game, there's so many ways they could go. We've already seen that they're leaning more towards fixing balance issues with legendaries than through class changes, which I think is super cool.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, there wasn't really any true semblance of balance in Diablo 2. They didn't touch skills all that much. There was some things like So there were some that were just ludicrously overpowered, like paladin hammers, still being able to affect undead even if they were immune to magic. There's some things like that they did go back and tweak a little bit. But for the most part, it's just, well, here's some new items. Or you have passive bonuses from skills. You have the synergies. It's like, here, you just go have fun. Go do your thing. So fixing things through itemization isn't a bad way of doing it. Obviously, you want to have a good baseline so you can get those items, but from there, let the inequities be solved through items, and focus more of your time on that than you are, trying to fine tune the balance on the classes.
No, I totally agree. I think it's gonna be a lot more fun to find your balance through new legendaries, and it adds to everyone. Everyone gets new items, and it just improves the game. Droth Vader, sorry, had made a point about something I mentioned a while ago. He said patch 1.1 didn't drop because that was the PvP patch. He said in jest, but I think there might actually be some truth to that, because for anyone who doesn't know, they had come out like a few months after the game came out. When people were asking where's PvP, they said, I had to find the blue post. Someone find it and link it. They said PvP is coming in 1.1. And I think that could totally be the reason they never released 1.1.
It could be, because the internet will hold you to it. Now they're kind of like, well, we said it'd be in 1.1. We're not in 1.1 yet. Now are we? So that's where your PvP is.
In like 3 years, they're gonna release patch 1.1, just completely out of order. Throw in PvP. Yeah, pretty funny.
Why do you have to mention PvP?
Yeah. I'm not one that's waiting for PvP. I'm waiting for new systems that would replace PvP. Like these leaderboards in Greater Rifts, I think is a much better way for people to compete in Diablo than PvP.
Yeah. Now I am not the biggest PvP person out there, but I do enjoy at least having that as the style of play. Just something else that I can, try out, or to alleviate. Oh, I'm done grinding levels. I'm done farming rifts. I'm done doing greater rifts. I just want to queue and kill people. I just want to see. I think I'm doing pretty well. How do I stack up against others? How am I doing compared to other players? How is my skill? How much of am I a noob? Am I decent? Compared to just get right in there and fighting somebody else.
When's the last time you did brawling?
A very long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. But that's because you can't find anybody to PvP with.
Well, there's a reason for that too. I'm all with you as far as comparing myself to other players, but I just feel like systems like tiered rifts or greater rifts, and hopefully future systems, are a better way to do that in Diablo. Because being good in the game is completely different from what I think we've all seen than being good in brawling. This example, right? Like your character might be awesome at clearing T6, and then you get wrecked in brawling because you weren't spec'd for the imbalance that is current PvP.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Though, I don't care what PvP.
No, you and 80% of the players are. So I'm the weird one. There was one more announcement though in the patch notes that people are really upset about. I don't know if you've been reading any of the forum posts regarding this, but the changes to healing.
Wasn't the changes to healing, is they're just reducing the amount of health from health globes and then kind of repurposing that into your gear?
Yeah, so life on hit and life regen will be better in 2.1, and health globes will be worse. You'll get just as many health globes, but they'll heal you less. Basically, they're just making healing better because they found on the higher tiered greater rifts, people are more reliant on healing, and right now it doesn't do much, so people aren't putting it on their gear. I thought it was a great change. I think it makes sense. People don't really put healing on. It's another viable stat if they buff it. But reading through the forum posts, people are really upset.
Yeah, I guess it's just now, I don't have much experience, of course, at tier 6 and hardcore, but just kind of from my experience, in T1, T2 and hardcore, is you do value your own healing because you can't rely on getting that mob to the 50% marker or getting the mob dead in order to get that health globe to drop on an elite pack. You have to be able to sustain yourself in between those, because you could run into a bad patch. You even with 50% crit rate, there's some times where I will unload 6 cluster arrows and not get a single crit. And so instead of killing the mob in 1 globe of hatred, I've just dropped it to quarter health. And so it's like, oh, son of a. And so you have to be able to, keep myself alive in those instances and relying on getting the health globes to drop. That might be a different case at hardcore T6 when people have like just the ridiculous levels of damage and can power things down pretty quickly in order to get them. But I guess I never really looked at that from my perspective. I've always valued the healing stat, because you needed it. But that's just, I guess, the change in when your death is permanent compared to when you can be like, eh.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's probably not even an issue on hardcore, but I think on softcore, a lot of people have just said, oh, I'll just rely on health globes, stack enough toughness that I don't need the healing, and people are upset at this notion that they might have to put some healing on their gear instead of having all offensive stats.
Yeah, though I will say this, though. There was actually a public rift that I was in last night, and I saw someone take I guess they're kind of like you. They were just a little bit undergeared for being in Torment 1, and they took a Molten Explosion and dropped to a quarter health.
Ooh.
And they were blocked in through a Waller with the Fiends on the other side and the rest of us on the other one. It was like, well, we got one of them dead, and my first reaction was just, I need to run up these stairs and get that health globe so that way that person gets some healing. Going out of my way in order to actually try and make sure that that somebody stays alive. If they nerf it too much, then in that instance they might not have lived for that wall to come down if it wasn't for the insane healing that you get from the health globes. So I guess it'll be interesting. There might be a lot more lower level deaths, or it might be more hardcore players dying in that transition into Torment because of that, if they don't value healing as much as they should.
Yeah,
interesting to see how that
no,
plays
that
out.
is a good point. I mean, using health globes during combat definitely can be exciting, so hopefully they don't nerf it super hard. But also, not in the preview, but coming with 2.1, we got changes to a few skills. One of them, I think this is probably the most controversial passive in the game, and has needed a change since like day one with everything.
Yeah, it's one that they have expressed their displeasure with. Really, you're right. Like since the beginning, they've not liked it. They just haven't found a way to change it and not break monks.
As we start to talk about this, because there's a huge chat delay, I'd love to ask the people watching the live stream, just answer yes or no, does One with Everything need a change? If you have an opinion, give it yes or no. I'd love to hear what chat has to say, because I definitely have one, but I'd like to get a good idea of what you guys think. One with Everything, for anyone who doesn't know, takes, as a monk, using this passive, takes your highest resistance and makes all of your resistance that amount. So not only is it so powerful that you pretty much have to use it, I guess less so now than previously, but
it's one of those things that many high level monks do, because if you can get like a trifecta glove or a trifecta ring that then has a secondary resist on it, so you get all of your damage and then you still get survivability from your secondary stat. And a lot of it too, just a couple items, and you have like 3 items, and you can easily have 500 resists.
Yeah. So far, the vast majority of people in the chat are saying yes, although there are some people saying no with some decent examples here. It's a class-defining skill, I guess, is a popular response. I mean, I get it. It's nice for your class to have something really cool that other classes are jealous of, and I think they should put that in the game. But when it gets to the point where it feels mandatory, effectively at that point it's like taking away one of the monk's passive slots and just giving them this extra bonus, which isn't nearly as fun as you getting to choose what that bonus is, in my opinion. But I was glad to see most people say yes, not to discredit anyone who's saying no. Both are valid opinions.
Yeah, and for those that don't know what the change is, do you want to say
yes, I'm
what
so sorry.
The change is?
Yes, let me preface this with they've been trying to come up with a change for this for a while, and the reason it's been so hard to is because monks have to gear towards this passive. Monks have already invested a lot into one specific all res, so they neglected changing this at all in vanilla D3 because back then there weren't secondary stats. You were choosing fire res over, some really important stat. Sometimes even, attack speed or something that you might have wanted, and getting rid of one with everything would just completely devalue all of the monk's gear. It's a little bit easier now in Reaper of Souls because it's a secondary stat. You're not giving up as much for it, and they've come up with what I think is a good compromise. Although monks are still going to take a hit here. Any resistance you have on your gear, any secondary resistance, fire, physical, whatever, will give you 30% of that towards all resistances.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you get 30%. You get 30% of what you're now getting from your resistance. I mean, a little bit more complicated than that, but it's definitely much worse, if we're being completely honest, than what your current resistance is if you're speccing towards one with everything.
Yeah, especially, for some of those people at very high levels that are able to, pick and choose their gear and tweak it around a little bit, that they might actually have very little all resists, and the majority of their monk's resist is through one with everything on just a single resist stat. So now all of a sudden their total resists are going to drop by 70%, somewhere around there, because they're going to, they might have 1500 lightning resist and 200 all resist, and then now all of a sudden their all resistance is going to drop down to where it's only what would that be, 700? Yeah, 650, 700 resists is their all resist, but then their lightning resist will get buffed slightly and will now be like 1900 resist. So yeah, it's a little thing that's going to affect like kind of like that top tier of players, but a lot of them are going to be going into seasons anyway, so it's not going to really have that big of an effect on them since it's coinciding with the season release. It is a nice breakpoint that allows you, what the changes ahead of time, so you can base your decisions on gearing prior to the change actually happen when you get into the season.
Yeah, assuming that you plan on playing seasons, of course.
Yeah.
Talk about kicking someone when they're down. Poor monks here. Monks have just got the raw end of the deal. Now, I'm sure they're buffing monks. They're in the process of buffing monks, but it just has to feel pretty bad as a monk player right now, right?
I guess that there might be one of those things is they're breaking the bad news early in order to get the negativity out of the way, and so that it won't really taint other things, because this is the bad news. This is what we're going to go through. It's a nerf, but it's a change that kind of needs to happen. You have a week, get it out of your system, and then Tuesday we might get patch notes with any day now, or not any day now. We might get it Tuesday, we might get it next Tuesday. It probably won't be more than a couple weeks, and then you'll see all of the nice, lovely bonuses that they're getting, and all of that negativity will then drown out, and it won't have that competing voice trying to call, well, all these buffs don't matter because all of these nerfs, now they've got all the nerf stuff out of the way, and people can just focus more on the positives.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If they announced the good stuff with this, everyone would just call it a nerf. They would just whitewash the buffs. But the good news, of course, Blizzard knows that monks are weak. Mm-hmm. So monks expect to be stronger in 2.1 despite this change. You might have some low toughness for a while, but you'll have some more armor from your dexterity.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that will kind of factor into it. Some people, you might be losing like 1,000 all resists, but you're also going to be gaining, even if you're using the Seize the Initiative passive, which is going to get redesigned. Even a moderately geared monk, you're going to be gaining 3,000 or 4,000 armor easily. High-end ones, might be gaining 4,500, 5,000 armor.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, definitely a good change there. But overall, I would expect your toughness to drop if I was a monk.
Yeah, unfortunately it is.
Well, the next change is about your favorite class. Do you want to talk a little bit about the preparation change?
Step back. I got this. Yeah, so coinciding with like that bad news thing with demon hunters, they're changing preparation punishment, which is the skill that a lot of demon hunters use to basically funnel their discipline into hatred and increase their offensive capability. Didn't really sit well with Blizzard because that means you're taking this one resource which was designed to be purely defensive and turning it into an offensive, resource. So it's kind of your discipline is just kind of like a battery that you use and you let charge up that then allows you to give yourself more hatred. And then when combined with Night Stalker, it kind of is an infinite loop that kind of goes. Well, I'll use discipline to get hatred and use that hatred to generate discipline, which then I'll turn into hatred to turn into discipline. And you kind of keep going and you go forever and ever and ever. And so they're kind of wanting to end that and change it around. So the change that they're making is it will no longer cost discipline, but it has a 20-second cooldown. So now it's just 20 seconds. You'll be able to get that that small injection of hatred that you can from the skill, but you can't spam it like you used to.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say Danny Ray also posted an article from BlizzPro on the Twitch chat. So if you guys go to diablo.blizzpro.com, there's a whole article about the punishment change.
Stealing my thunder.
I'm so sorry. Was that your article? Was that
No, that wasn't my article. That is Danny Ray's article. But I was going to go through and mention that, and talk how he talked about it a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
no problem. Okay, so there you go. Yep, go check out Danny Ray. He went through to talk about it just a little bit. And it's one of those things. It does make it so that this change makes it so demon hunters will value cooldown reduction a little bit more. Previously, all we really had was it benefited a little bit from sentries, so that way you could get more down, and as your group cleared through rifts, if you played in groups. Otherwise, it was just, you reduce the cooldown on my companion skill for the damage bonus for the group, which was, nice, not bad. But this adds a little bit more incentive. It increases that stat ever so slightly.
Yeah, I mean, it makes... oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the only other thing is, of course, I have to give my perspective as a hardcore player. As a hardcore player, this really was like a double-edged sword, and just picking up on an earlier example that I was giving, when you have a mob close to one of those breakpoints for a health globe, if I'm hurting a little bit, it can be, I can save my discipline for another smoke screen, or I could channel that into hatred and see if I can get a crit and kill that one mob, so I can get a health globe, which will then refill my hatred through my Reaper's Wraps. So it always was one of those ones that's like, is it worth giving up my defensive skill or my defensive capabilities for that in the hardcore mentality? A lot of the time, especially when you're running in groups, it's not as big of a decision when you're running solo because you have other people to support you. But I also have like 70 discipline, so I could kind of chain cast it 3 times in a row without much regard. But it'd always be one of those ones where it's like, I don't want to drop below 50% discipline just so I have enough to cast smokescreen a couple times in case I get in a sticky situation.
Yeah, it makes sense. Once again, something completely broken in softcore works fine in hardcore. If everyone just played hardcore, we wouldn't even need patches, right? Everything already just works beautifully, it seems, in my experience.
Yeah. So sorry for my apology about kind of being that hardcore elitist looking down on softcore players, but we take that back and we're just it's like everyone roll hardcore. Screw it. Do it now.
Yeah, I love that phrase, sorry for my apology, by the way, because that so sums up our stigma for saying sorry too much.
Pretty much. We have to keep it alive.
Yeah, right. I did want to say, though, no surprise to me about this change to punishment, because it really seems to be completely contrary to the Demon Hunter design. I mean, the idea of separating the two resources is that you can use your discipline, you can vault or smokescreen, and you don't feel like you're punished. You don't feel like you're losing DPS, but allowing you to just turn discipline into hatred means now you have to second guess every vault, every discipline spender you have on your build. And I'm for the change, although I'm sure some people are excited about it, or I'm sorry, upset about it.
Well, obviously, I mean, there are going to be a lot of people that don't like that. I think some people We're actually going through and mathing out some of like the cooldown reduction on it just to see how much you could. Though of course this doesn't take into account when compared to like Night Stalker, how you could just get your discipline refilled. But if you just had base discipline regen, which actually a lot of hardcore players do because you don't have a passive slot to fit a Night Stalker. Sorry for going back into hardcore, but it's actually kind of a hatred per second increase from the skill once you get into the higher cooldown reduction. So it's not bad.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad change. I don't think we'll see a lot of people upset compared to the monk change. I'm sure we'll see a lot of rage from. The one other thing I saw about 2.1, Grimmiku had mentioned that it looks like we're going to be getting automatic pickup of gems and crafting mats in 2.1.
Yeah, it was nice. That was one little fear that I had when they removed all of the legendary materials, was because one of those promises that they made that all of the crafting mats, would be auto pickup. You would just run by and they would get picked up for you. And so it's just that they're removing it because that's a little bit too much on the mechanics side in order to get it working properly. So we're kind of pushing away from it a little bit. But it's nice to see that they are looking to keep that aspect of it. The next question would be, are they going to keep it as a UI element instead of taking up inventory space?
Yeah, and they said that won't be going into 2.1, but that it's, as Grimmiku said, it was just an idea.
Yeah.
So who knows if or when we'll get it, but I don't think many people would be opposed to the idea of gems and crafting mats just being like currency instead of taking up actual space.
Yeah, free up my bag space. Thank you. Which I actually want to go through. And one of the other comments that Danny Ray posed a question on Twitter is the question for the podcast is, has Nineball saved all of his legendary crafting mats for lore reasons? The answer is no. Not all of them, but I still kept my Reaper's Fear because I made the Angel of Death shit his pants. And I took that, scooped it up, put it in a jar, and it's staying in my bags as an accomplishment of what it is that I achieved.
That's a good idea. Like, honestly, you can't get those mats anymore. I kind of wish I already sold all mine for 50K.
Mm-hmm.
I need my gold. I'm cheap, I guess. I gotta sell away all my lore items.
I sold off every other single one that I had, but it was just that one. No, you're staying. I'm keeping you.
There you go.
You're a reminder. Yep.
Did we have any more news worth going over? We've been in the 2.1 hole for an hour now.
Yeah, I mean that really sums it up. That's kind of like the big news. I'm sure that's just going to be our next podcast. Is just going to be like, look at all this additional stuff we found out about 2.1.
Yeah, anytime patches are coming, we know we're going to have news to cover for at least a couple weeks, and then we'll have the patch to play and talk about. So happy days ahead for Reaper of Souls.
Chill Wild in chat just said that the mats themselves still drop.
Oh really? They just drop as gray items now?
Oh, that's actually pretty awesome. It's ever since that change, I've really only done rifts. I haven't done a single bounty, so I haven't really come across any unique mobs to have a chance to have them drop.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. That's interesting to know. I wonder if they'll keep that in there.
Are they going to drop the price for making gems? Asked by Smokey187. Probably not. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's been no talk of it yet. So, is it just Adventure Journal that still drops, or might just be? Some people are still talking about it. Maybe it's just Adventure Journal, but you guys keep talking. We'll read. Should we go into your build before we hit the feedback, or vice versa? Do you have a preference?
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about the build first before we start getting into the items and the feedback and all the warm fuzzy feelings that we get from the community.
All right. Nineball decided to take a change of pace with a new class, and he's going to show you a Demon Hunter build. Something Nineball's very unfamiliar with, the Demon Hunter.
Yep. I have no knowledge of the Demon Hunter whatsoever. So here we go.
This is, of course, for anyone who doesn't watch the show regularly, shame on you, and Nineball is a professional demon hunter by trade. Not in the game, he just, as a profession, he hunts demons.
Yep. And so this is pretty much the build. Let me zoom in here a little bit to so that way people can see it on the screen share there a little bit better. All right, and this is this is actually a question that was submitted to us from Olav last week, and we said that we would come back to, and we just we wanted to do it as the build of the week because it was a pretty nice question and something that's one of the more popular. Well, it's actually I guess it is like the most popular Demon Hunter build for Torment 6 that exists right now. This one is the Sentry Demon Hunter, as you could probably tell by the show title. For anyone that somehow missed the show title, either listening to us here live or listening to us on YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher, you've known this one's coming. You have no one to blame but yourself.
Yes, and I have to apologize. Skype doesn't have the best resolution when we're doing screen share. And hats off to the comment, "Is this Minecraft?" Because that does look like about the resolution we have on the screen. But I'm sure Nineball will do a good job explaining.
Yeah, so I will have to try my best with my pronunciations. The comments in chat are funny. Literally can see nothing. So
use your imagination.
Yeah, so obviously the build itself revolves around two things: Sentry and the 6-piece Marauder set bonus, which allows your sentries to shoot some of your hatred spenders. Now, this build here, you can probably notice, has no hatred generator at all. And the reasoning for that is, if you have 6 sentries down that are all shooting cluster arrow and multi-shot, you don't need to generate. You don't actually do any attacking yourself. You just kind of sit back, run around, and stay alive. And there's 2 big variants. The first one that I have up on the screen here for those that can barely make it out and see what it is. I will try to zoom in even more.
I did some zooming on my end.
Okay, this one revolves around a physical build, and so you stack physical percentage damage, and this one it uses cluster arrow shooting stars that has rockets. You've got multi-shot full broadside for just the increased damage, and you have a sentry with impaling bolt, which allows your bolts to actually pierce through enemies, and then you just have your kind of passive skills that help support that. Custom engineering, so you can have down more sentries. Steady aim and archery are just kind of there for increased damage. Ballistics, it kind of increases the damage from cluster arrows, since it actually shoots out rockets. That can be changed up freely to something like ambush, or maybe a defensive skill like perfectionist or night stalker. And then your other ones, obviously you have companion, because your 4-piece Marauder set bonus allows you to have all of your pets. And because you're stacking physical damage, it increases the damage of those pets, and they can actually contribute, a rather sizable amount. And then like Vault for mobility, and Smoke Screen just for you to get out of things. This is a more softcore oriented build. Hardcore, I would probably take out Vault and put in, Shadow Power, and you would change out some of the skills. You'd probably take out Steady Aim and Ballistics for Perfectionist and Awareness, just for the time being, would be some of your more powerful defensive talents, if that's if you're playing on Hardcore.
It's nice. Did they already make the pass-through to up the Marauders set bonus that gives the bonus that allows your sentries to shoot your hatred spenders?
Yeah, I'll be getting a little bit more into that in a little bit. But yeah, they did buff it. It used to have an incredibly long internal cooldown. Now it's actually, not only is it obviously usable, it's obscenely overpowered. Not that it needs a nerf, it just gives a very interesting style of gameplay. And this is the other variant that's popular, is just the fire version. So you've got cluster arrow and multi-shot and Spitfire turret, all making those particular skills do fire damage instead. This one does, of course, has a little bit more rockets that it's firing, so it benefits a lot more from ballistics. So for the hardcore players, I would drop Steady Aim and Archery, as those would be 2 of your least contributing factors in there for your damage. And then it's the same thing. The rest of your talents more or less just stay the same. And it's the big deciding factor between whether you want to do physical or fire kind of comes down to the items that you use. And this actually gets into Olaf's question: is what is better, when you want to get that Marauder 6-piece bonus, since you have to equip everything? Is it, do you equip the full set? Or if you have a Ring of Royal Grandeur, can you benefit from, one of the multitude of items out there, like a Cinder Coat or a Mage Fist and Dariel's Visage? What is it that I should take? And the best solution to that one is, depending upon what build is it that you want to do, physical or fire. Obviously, if you haven't found a Mage Fist or a Cinder Coat or an Andariel's Visage, it kind of comes down to a coin flip, personal preference, or which items you've gotten the most elemental damage from. But as far as if you do have the option to play around with the 6-piece bonus or the Ring of Royal Grandeur to swap out something, for the fire build, it's going to be best for you to equip a Mage Fist. Because you're not actually using that many resources, the resource damage reduction or the resource cost reduction that you get from the Cinder Coat isn't that great. It doesn't really do a lot for you at all. And you're giving up a ton of survivability by using a Cinder Coat as opposed to something else. You're giving up at least armor or armor or vitality or all resist in order to get that fire skill damage on that item. So you're taking something that's going to have a lot of your survivability stats tied into it, your chest piece, and you're trading that for offensive capability, which you could also get from Mage Fist. You get a Mage Fist, you don't get quite as much fire damage from it, but you're not giving up as much of your survival bonus. Some people like to use Tasker and Theo as well. That does increase your turret damage, but the way that it interacts with the cooldown of how often the set bonus actually has your turrets use this Spirit Spender makes it not as powerful. A lot of your Sentry damage actually comes from that set bonus, where your Sentries are going to start shooting off Cluster Arrow and Multi-Shot, because it has a small internal cooldown for each one of the skills. So your turrets will go through, they'll fire Cluster Arrow, and then it will fire Multi-Shot, and then it enters kind of like a cooldown period until it can fire Cluster Arrow again, and then Multi-Shot again. And you can fit in a third Spirit Spender into your build, but it's kind of wonky. Some people think that it's broken because it's not as effective. 2 is your sweet spot. When you're using that bonus, you want to have 2 Spirit Spenders.
That's really interesting, because I would have thought for sure to take Tasker and Theo's or Cinder Coat over Mage Fists. This has to be like the one fire build where you wouldn't take Cinder Coat as your one fire piece.
Yeah, because with gloves, you're going to go for trifecta anyways. And so most people don't, use their gloves as a piece that they get their resists from. You have your main stat and your 3 defensive stats. So, and their fire bonus is an additional affix on your Mage Fist, so you're not giving up anything. Whereas with the Cinder Coat, you actually have to give up one of those other stats you would normally use on that chest piece. When most people, I don't want vitality or all resist on my gloves because that's a damage bonus. I'm giving up a lot in order to get those stats on there, whereas I'm not giving up anything on a chest.
Yeah,
so, yeah, really, that's kind of what comes down to it. And the reason why people, some people will still swear by Tasker and Theo no matter what, but the reason why some don't is the attack bonus for Tasker and Theo does not affect the internal cooldown for the Cluster Arrow and the Multi-Shot. Your turret might attack a little bit faster, but the frames in between the skills are kind of bugged. And so you don't benefit as much from that attack speed when it shoots off the skills, because it'll shoot off one skill, have a small internal cooldown where it won't fire anything, and then use the other skill and kind of repeat that as those little cooldown intervals come up. So you're actually missing out a lot from that attack speed bonus of Tasker and Theo, since it does not apply to that cooldown. Regular attack speed does, but it was something along the lines that I couldn't find. There's a huge thread on Reddit that went into really big detail on this, and it was something along, I believe, is either 1.33 or 1.63 attack speed is a good sweet spot for reducing the cooldown on those Spirit Spenders for the Sentries. And then the next one was something ridiculous, like it went on to like 2.6. And so you'd have to be giving up a lot of other stats to get a ridiculous amount of attack speed in order to get there. And Tasker and Theo doesn't help you achieve that mark either. And then, still going on that one, if you aren't using the fire build, the Tasker and Theo, of course, will increase the attack speed of all of your sentries as well as your animals. But if you use that, say, for an Andariel's Visage instead, it increases all of your damage by 20% across the board for your elemental damage bonus in that slot that you normally couldn't get. So, it's one of those ones where they kind of tend a little bit more towards there because, again, you don't get that full benefit of the attack speed because of how the set bonus interacts with the turrets. So it generally comes down to, if you're using fire, Mage Fist is one of the better ones for you. And if you're using physical, Andariel's Visage with a physical percentage is going to be better for you. So it's just some of those things to consider.
Well, that's really
Did I say Spirit? I said Spirit Spender, apparently. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we get it.
You can hate on me for that.
I've been playing Monk too much recently, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it looks like you think Marauders is once again the set to go for. Do you think this is going to be a pretty popular build now that they've made that buff to the turrets on the Marauder set?
Oh, definitely. It is. This is kind of like the go-to build now for Tier 6 Demon Hunters. And you can, some people will still go through and they'll still add in a spirit, or sorry, I almost started it again. They'll throw in a hatred generator. I am confusing everybody right now that's listening to this. But you'll throw in a hatred generator, and so that way you can still actively engage in combat yourself. You don't necessarily have to, but obviously participating in combat is a lot more interesting than not participating in combat. So it's what everybody kind of is drawn towards, and it's a great, powerful set bonus, which, before they changed it, was absolute garbage, because all of the sentries used to share the cooldown, and so you'd fire like one cluster arrow every 30 seconds, and it was garbage. Nobody liked it. But now it's godly.
That's pretty awesome. Well, yeah, hopefully some of you Demon Hunters can beef up your build, assuming you have the Marauder set or close to it. Looks like an awesome build. Should we hop into the feedback section?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, I'm, if you don't mind, going to let you take the first one so I can run to the bathroom. I'm so sorry, but this alcohol has hit my bladder.
All right, I've stopped the screen sharing, so make sure that
yes, we are back to chat. We're not going to go through all the feedback this week because we're getting a ton of it, which, not complaining. Please keep sending the feedback so we can pick and choose our favorites. But we got like a dozen emails. We're going to read, I think, about half of them. And if you want to contribute feedback, either items of the week or just anything you want to say through email, the best place to send that is to our email address, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com, and we really appreciate it. I'll be right back.
All right, so while he's going on, I'm just going to grab one of our little random questions here that we've got. This one here comes from Jamie. He asked, hey, great show, guys. I was just wondering if there's any way to farm the level 70 Witching Hour belt, or wondering where people are getting it from, because I see tons of people getting it, but nobody I know that plays has one. This one, there's no set place. It's just one of those legendary drops that you just have to farm in order to try and get. So the more farming you put in, the higher the chance. But unfortunately, there's no targeted way for you to get it. So just run rifts and dump your blood shards into Kadala for belts is your best way of getting it, because Kadala actually really helps you with that, because you can kind of target your legendary acquisition at one particular spot. It's helped me. It helped me get my Cinder Coat, and I lucked out with getting Mage Fist from it as well. So it's just one. That's kind of the only way that you can kind of up your chances on getting it. You'll probably go through a bunch of other useless belts that you don't want, but you might also get a Harrington Waistguard, which that's up for some debate and discussion between a lot of people. What's the best belt in the game? And the Harrington Waistguard is, in my opinion, it's one that I enjoy more, just because it gives you obscene numbers for small amounts of time, but it's always fun. Let me see. Another one that we have here.
Sorry, I just got back. Go on.
Oh, no problem. I was just about to take my second one.
All right.
So this one is from Timmer, or what is it? Best regards, Ritmu, aka Timmer. There we go. I've been a subscriber to Archon's channel for some time now, and I would like to know if there is any way to ask you questions about items. E.g., what stat to rolls, what item could you go through and submit. And it's just, maybe you are just so swamped by those questions, and then I'm just another one who annoys you. But if so, please ignore this email and keep your YouTube videos going, because I enjoy watching them rather than, or rather listening to them while I play. And he submitted, a Marauder's chess piece with asking, what should I what should I, how should I change this item?
Yeah, so let me get that Marauder's chest piece up on the screen so you guys can see it. I forgot to get it prepared, but it'll be up there. 2 shakes of a
Okay.
lamb's tail.
But this one is pretty standard for a chest piece. So you've got Dex Vitality, All Resist, and Armor. So obviously, what you want is sockets, and so you have to look at it. What is it that you're willing to give up? Personally, from just my thoughts on gearing, is I would give up the Vitality, so that way I could go in gym All Resist. Is one of the better ways, because that way you're actually taking less damage instead of giving yourself more of a buffer for the damage reduction that you already have.
But sorry, what stat did you say to reroll for the sockets?
Vitality.
You would reroll Vitality over the armor?
Yes.
Even with 2.1 incoming and Dex turning into armor?
Yeah. Because, I mean, even at that point, because you're just giving yourself more stats with which to or more defense with which to take less damage. That's kind of like my look at it. If I can get resist, I'm willing to give up vitality in order to increase my armor as such. The other one, of course, would be the other weakest one on there is armor itself, because the 95 all resist is more survivability than the 585 armor, unless your armor to resist ratio is just heavily out of sync.
Yeah, personally, I think I'm going to disagree here. Personally, before 2.1, I would say 1 point of Vit, 1 point of armor, about the same. Now, Vit's going to give you, on average, at least from what I've seen, more toughness per point than armor will. But like Nineball was saying, you'd rather get toughness from armor and all-res than from getting it from Vit or life percent, because your healing is going to be less effective when you increase your health pool. But I think there comes a certain point where you should take Vit over armor all-res.
Yeah, obviously you do, of course, require a minimal amount of HP with which to stay alive. I guess that's just my look on it is still just, even though on paper, when you look at your paper doll, that vitality is going to give you the larger increase to toughness than the armor does. I just like taking less damage than having more health.
Yeah. And I agree with you there, but I think this is one of those times it's going to be a matter of preference. I would, given that in 2.1 Dex will equal armor, and therefore you'll have some additional diminishing returns on any additional armor, I would reroll armor. But I guess that just proves that it was a good question, because we got two sides of it.
Chat's telling me I'm wrong.
We got two. Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, really, you're gonna get more toughness rerolling armor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how much healing are you gonna lose as a result? Sorry, I'm covering up the wrong person. I'm gonna get rid of this image now so you can see us. Yeah, we have multiple people with different opinions, but
yeah, I mean,
it is my stream, so maybe we have more fans of me here, I think.
No, definitely. I mean, what the people are saying is like the vitality obviously is going to give you more toughness on paper, but it's just that's personally how I look at it.
Yeah, like how much toughness is worth it to to take a larger health pool? If you get twice as much toughness from Vit, would you take that over armor and all res? Do you have like a number at where you'll say, okay, now we'll take Vit?
I guess for me, it's just kind of like as long as I'm sitting around like 4,500 to 500,000 HP, that's kind of a good level for me, and then the rest goes into defense.
Yeah, I guess just two ways of looking at it, I guess. I try to come up with like a ratio of I'll take this much this for that, and for Vit and armor, I usually go 1-to-1, but for a class that's going to be based on armor, I would change that to I don't know 1.5 or 2-to-1. Personally, but really, unfortunately, in enchanting, you still can't see what something's going to do for you before you make the decision. Hopefully, a change that we get in the future, but until then, it's just going to be a matter of preference. Do you want more healing, or do you want a larger health pool?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can grab the next piece of feedback. What was the first one that you grabbed while I was gone?
The other one that I grabbed was from Jamie Furr.
All right. Well, let's see. We got from our good friend Leviathan over at BlizzPro, who runs the Hearthstone site. Is that right?
Yes, yes. He is our site manager over for Hearthstone.
And you might have also seen him on the recent dev stream with on Diablo talking about his build. He said, "Hola, friends. I have feedback from myself and from a friend. From me, please say sorry more, and please do a 24-hour podcast." I think we could just combine those two and do like a 24-hour apology podcast.
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
Yeah, just 24 hours non-stop of us like progressively getting more and more apologetic.
And then put a bass line to it, turn it into a remix.
Yeah. Dubstep non-stop. We just get one dubstep track. We find the best 4 measures and we just loop that for 24 hours. And by the end of it, we're like in tears, on our knees, begging for forgiveness.
Yep. Prostrate ourselves and ready to commit seppuku.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a stream to me. 48 hours, says Mikey. I think we could do it.
Yeah, totally. You go for 48 hours, and then we pass out for forgivefulness.
Yeah. And okay, Leviathan's feedback from his friend is very telling of how particular viewers are with pronunciation. So I think we actually skipped over an email this week about a similar issue regarding how we pronounce mana.
I was going to address that one later.
So never mind, we'll get to that. But this one from a friend, and this is in all caps, so I have to yell it at you. Please tell Nineball that it's pronounced Argyles. There's no C.
Yes, this one is my bad. I'm seeing letters where there are none, and I do not even have dyslexia with which to come to my defense.
No, I think we've all done it. It's just that we're live when we're doing it, and so people are there to.
It's not. I can't even go through and say that. I've been pronouncing it Ogchild since Classic. I just see a C there for some reason and keep going with it instead of Ogguilds.
No, so, I'd say, I say we just rebel, and from now on in Westmarch Workshop, they're known as Ogchilds. Let's live with it. You want to get Nineball's elite builds? They're called Ogchilds.
There you go. No, I will change, Steven. I will change just for you. Don't worry.
Just for his friend, really.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to? I guess the other 3 are all from OM Veg. Olav, huh?
Yep. No, we kind of got one of them, because we did the Sentry build.
Yes, I wanted to mention starting off, and I totally forgot. OM Veg actually left some feedback that we shouldn't read all of our feedback, and instead just read the feedback that you guys care about, which is it's kind of ironic that I'm reading this feedback because it's not the kind of feedback that you would care about. But point taken, and we're moving on. The same thing we did with items. We're not going to be able to read all the feedback anymore because it would take up too much time. But keep sending it, and we'll read the best. And was there a let's see. The other question from OM Veg was Sentry, and did you get to everything else? Are we done?
Oh no, I just did the Sentry one. I haven't read his others.
Oh, okay. What else was there? There's so much. Well, 2 of them were about Sentry, and the other one was the one I just read. I think.
Yeah, true. So,
do you want to talk about the mana one?
Yeah, we could go into that one. That's perfectly fine. We got one here. Ep12. I feel bad if I mispronounce your name, considering they're wanting to correct our pronunciation of mana, that it should be pronounced mana, because or what is it? I guess, or maybe I don't even know. I don't even know how these words are supposed to be pronounced or how he's going through.
Yeah, I mean,
I've always called it mana.
I have too, and I can see that it very well might be correctly pronounced mana. However, I think it's too late.
Yeah,
like, mana is what it's called in our minds by this point, right?
Yeah, because they were just basically going into the Merriam-Webster definition of mana versus mana, where mana is the some sort of powerful elemental forces, and then mana is basically the miracle sustenance that was provided, to the Israelites as they escaped from Egypt. Just kind of kind of, I guess it was described as like little fluffy balls that fell from the heavens, and you were able to eat and tasted like honey. And
That's what mana is. So now, of course, all of this we're just assuming because the way he wrote it out is we've been pronouncing it with one N, and we need to be pronouncing it with two N's. And how you pronounce mana with one N or two N, I think, is up to interpretation. So we're just guessing as well as we can. But apologies to anyone who prefers the mana pronunciation.
Yeah, and also, I guess I've always said mana. Most of the internet, I think, says mana. So I'll just go with that one. I'll go on the group defense of I'm American. I can't pronounce anything anyways.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Nuke-ular.
Nuclear.
So
that's right. That's right. And we say the letter Z, and some of you guys say Z. And I just realized that a lot of the world doesn't consider South America a separate continent from North America.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one continent. You know the Olympic rings?
Hurricane.
There's not an Olympic ring for North America and for South America. It's one ring for North and South America.
There you go.
It turns out, just TLDR, Americans are wrong about everything.
I did not know that at all, actually. I just learned something today.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Olympics, do you know that John Williams is the person that composed the Olympic fanfare?
No.
So there you go. The person
Olympic trivia.
Yeah, the composer of all the Star Wars symphonies is also the composer of the Olympic fanfare.
Well, it's not nearly as epic as. I think we can use a little bit more Star Wars in there.
Definitely.
So. Yeah.
Definitely.
Apparently, among the people who consider us the same continent, most of the residents of South America don't consider that a separate continent. So I feel like we're being kind of rude. Anyways, I got sidetracked, but yes, we'll try to pronounce things.
Westmarch Workshop, we have social commentary.
Right after reading our feedback about how we just get carried away talking about things that people don't care about, there I go. But thank you guys for your feedback. I think about half of our feedback was very technical this week, and so we skipped a lot of it, but hopefully we got to the important stuff, and hopefully you guys will keep sending that.
Oh, yeah. I guess there was one other one that I would like to go through and bring up. This one was from Vinton.
Is this the novel?
Yeah, this is the novel idea.
Which is also an entire novel, how long the email is.
It was an entire novel. And what is it? They're a longtime fan of yours, and the majority of it could kind of be summed up as in, why don't you play the game anymore?
Why am I such a slacker?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's like, hopefully we'll get you back into the swing of things. I know you've been having the computer problems that's preventing you from streaming, but they want to know, it's like, you don't have to stream. Just come on, man, play the game.
No, yes, and this was fair criticism. Now, in my defense, this was written right at the end of my long hiatus from the game, and I have been playing.
Yeah,
I've been putting a good amount of time into my Hardcore Witch Doctor. I'm going to be playing a lot of 2.1, but no, fair criticism. I took a long break from the game, and maybe it showed a little bit. So I'll make sure I stay in tune and keep bringing new builds and whatnot.
Well, here I'm making it so that way demon hunters have spirit generators. So I mean, I can't talk on this one. So, but they also did have like one little idea that they wanted to throw in. Is that they had their novel idea that they had come up with is for going back to the whole legendary mat thing and its removal is, what if instead of actually being used for crafting set pieces and things of that nature, is if you could just take one of every legendary mat in the game and craft it all into a single powerful item. What if they could do that in order to still bring some usefulness to those legendary mats?
Yeah, interesting idea. I guess the first problem I saw with it was either you make it a very powerful item, at which point most players would feel obligated to go and farm it, or you make it a less powerful item or a item that was specific to certain builds, and then it would only be relevant to some of the players. And I think that issue is the same reason why they haven't incorporated a lot of these ideas about doing XYZ to get some powerful item we see the same issue arise with the Hellfire Ring. Really, is most people just don't care about the Hellfire Ring, or at least realize that it's going to be too long before they get a good one, and no one's doing Ubers right now. I don't mean literally
Yeah.
no one, by the way. Sorry, I foresaw the YouTube comment coming when I saw that. Some people do Ubers.
Some people do Ubers. Hopefully, with the Hellfire Amulet, more people will do Ubers.
True story. Should we get into our items of the week?
Yeah, there's one real quick question from Waterfiend here in the chat. Nineball, what setting would you prefer for the next Diablo lore novel? And, he gave out Scovos, which is the home of the Amazons, or I have no idea how to pronounce this, Skosklin, which is the homeland of the Druids. I would actually like to see something in Zanzai, which is the home world, or the homeland of the wizards, where our wizards came from. It's also where Covetous Shin came from.
It's where I came from.
There you go.
Represent. All right. Well,
so let's get into the items. We're going on 2 hours now, so
each week's a little bit longer than the last. Well, okay, right before I show the items, I have to show this image that was submitted to us by, I'm going to get their name right now, and it's of a monk that has a lot of toughness. Last week we showed you guys a monk that had almost 300 million toughness, and it was partially from a shrine. Is that right?
It wasn't so much from a shrine. It was how they had built their monk, and it's just they had a whole bunch of items that increased their gold pickup as well as the gold things that would drop, and then they had the bracers, or the belt, that increased their armor by the amount of gold that they picked up.
All right. So yeah, this person has actually gotten up to 437 million toughness, if you guys can see on the screenshot there, and they're in town. This is just from their own skills and gear. Yeah,
and as 1.7 million life. They have 169% life bonus.
It's sick. You sent me this picture. Do you remember the name of the person who submitted it?
I don't actually know the name of the person that submitted it. It was kind of funneled into me from a person that Danny Ray was playing with earlier in the day.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, wait. He did send me the name as a follow-up. It was Jackovasaur. Say it like Bulbasaur, so Jackovasaur.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, this got me to thinking. We had the 300 mil toughness. Now we have 400 mil toughness. Can anyone beat this? I want to see who can submit the screenshot with the highest toughness value in it. That's, of course, not photoshopped. So who can beat 437 mil toughness?
Mikey's already going through and saying that people have gotten upwards of 4 to 5 billion toughness already. So
lots of room to beat out our highest image there. Submit your pictures. The next one I had was from Andarius, and these are they are the best Mage Fists. Is that 1 dex away from being perfect? 750s max on Mage Fists, right?
That it is.
So he is. Yeah, I mean, aside from secondary stats, he is 1 dex away from having perfect Mage Fists.
Yeah, that puts mine to shame. That's for certain. I'm still jealous. I have Mage Fist now, and I'm still jealous of that one.
That is ridiculous. Now we did get 1 other Mage Fists, and Soyex, if that's how you pronounce it. Thank you for submitting this picture. But I thought this was really funny, and I thought maybe this would give us an opportunity to give everyone a lesson in how to take a screen capture. Because there's probably other people like Soyex who didn't know how to do a screen capture, and the only thing they could do was take a photo of their screen, and I appreciate that so much, because other people would have just said, screw it, I'm not going to send a screen cap, but not Soyex. He pulled out his camera phone, and he took a picture of his screen. But next time, if you're on a PC, you just have to hit the print screen button. And if you're on a Mac, you just hit Shift Command 2 or 4 if you want to select part of the screen. So there you go. Don't have to pull out the camera phone.
Yeah, and if you don't actually know where it saves, it just gets saved. If you go into my documents, you see a folder that says Diablo 3. And then in there, you'll see one that says screenshots. And it'll show you all the screenshots that you've ever taken. Or, whenever you hit the print screen or that long convoluted thing that you Mac people have to do.
Yeah, and on Macs
with
it'll on Macs it'll either be saved to your desktop or your documents, but if you just search screenshot, it'll come up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, 2 good Mage Fists. This one was also almost perfect, but it just didn't get as high of a main stat roll, and of course he already had to roll the crit damage on it, so looks like this one will never be perfect, but still very sexy, and maybe someday.
It'll be good enough.
Yeah. Maybe someday Andarius will get that 1 extra dex. I would love to hear if Andarius, or I keep saying Andarius, it's Andreas. I'm sorry. I wonder if he's going to keep rolling that dex. Are you satisfied with 749, or are you going to keep rolling that? Let us know. Okay, Antoine here submitted 3 pictures. We chose this Tal Rasha's belt, not because it was the best, but because we haven't shown a Tal Rasha's belt yet. Has int, vit, all-res, and armor on there. And looks like he already re-rolled the vit. I would say that this is damn near perfect, except for the fact that I would rather have life percent than armor.
Yeah, that is one of those ones that is. It depends on how much vitality he has on the rest of his gear. Because if he was like me, then he doesn't have that much vitality, and the life percent won't give as much as just having straight vit on it. But yeah, definitely, if you're like any normal person, apparently, according to the chat, you'll have a very healthy amount of vitality, and so that vit might be better off as a life percentage, but you wouldn't know until you rolled it.
Yes, and I think some of the... So go ahead.
Or you could use some of the resources that are out there. Basically like one of the effective health calculators. I can't remember any of the websites off the top of my head. You can put the numbers in and replace the stat and find what would be more powerful, the vitality or the life percentage. Because this one is basically, 6 of one, half dozen of another. It's just increasing your toughness by your HP, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah. You just go through. You can find one of the calculators out there, put that in, and find out whether your life percentage is going to be better off than your vitality.
Yeah, and I think some people forget that it goes both ways. Not only is life percent better the more vitality you have, but vitality, of course, is going to be better the more life percent you have. Which gets you down this slippery slope once you start stacking both of them. Kind of like crit chance, crit damage. Both of them become more effective, but you don't want to get too much of a health pool without having some all-resin armor to buffer your healing.
Mm-hmm.
Next one up, 9ball was drooling over this. I haven't gotten very excited for flails yet because I haven't played much Crusader, but this Fate of the Fell. 0.7 damage away from 3,000. What a shame.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was just there on the cusp. Just on the cusp of, getting that 3K mark for the damage. But even then, like this is probably one of the reason why I wanted to feature this one. One, we've never had it submitted before, and this is like the go-to weapon for Crusaders right now. Because one of the more popular Crusader builds out there is the shotgun, and that works basically because of this flail. You use the Heaven's Fury that removes the cooldown but gives it a wrath cost, and it just shoots out in a straight line in front of you. When you equip this flail, instead of just shooting out 1 beam, it shoots out 3. So that's where the term shotgun comes into effect. Is you just run around shotgunning Heaven's Fury out for instant damage in front of everything, and this is what makes that build basically sing. And it was a great item, great rolls all across the board, and it was probably the most popular thing out there for Crusaders. So I had to show it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and all is not lost. He can keep re-rolling that damage and get the 3,000. He is 10 away from max damage on there. And
I think he's actually really close to the max minimum damage roll on that one at 1437. I think most two-handers, they only go up to like 1470, 1460.
I think you're right. Yeah, 14 something. And I know that's pretty close. Very, very sexy damage there. The next one came from a good friend, Blackstar, longtime follower of my stream. He submitted both a very nice strong arm, only 3 int away from being perfect strong arm bracers, assuming that you want cold damage, which he re-rolled, and then some damn near perfect Jade Harvester's Mercies. Reroll the attack speed, could still get one more on there, but has almost max crit chance and max crit damage. Two very sexy items.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's see. Next up, we've had a lot of Cinder Coats on the show, but I think this is actually our first perfect Cinder Coat.
Like perfect.
Perfect. And I mean, maybe you want a different secondary stat there, but as far as strength Cinder Coats go, it is amazing. It dropped with 20% fire skills, 500 strength, and 500 vit.
It is a beautiful thing. It is definitely a beautiful thing indeed.
Like the chances of that. Well, you have 85 different stats you can get with both strength and vit, and 5 different ones with fire skills. So whatever 85 times 85 times 5 is, that's the chance that you'd get. I mean, that times whatever the chance of you getting the affixes you want. I mean, just even with the lowered variance we have in Reaper of Souls, the astronomical chances that you would get such a perfect roll.
Yeah, and I also, just to go through and follow up on that Fate of the Fell, I went and looked it up, and the maximum minimum damage that you can roll is 1439. So
wow.
It's 10 points away from max damage and 2 points or 1 point away from max minimum damage. So he will have a very difficult time trying to re-roll that to 3K.
You might as well give up. Someone in chat said that they had a friend with one that had 3K, but I'm starting to think that they must have had attack speed on there as well.
That would put it over 3K, or if that was just damn impressive.
Oh yeah, or maybe he had perfect damage and the damage roll in there, who knows.
Yep.
But that's yeah, pretty sexy. And that's all of our items for the week, which I think wraps it up. Did you have anything else before we wrap up the show?
Oh, no, that was pretty much it.
Well, as our shows go on, they get longer and longer, and every week I'm like, this is going to be a short one. This week was an exception. We had patch 2.1, so I guess we have an excuse. But
yeah, we knew this wasn't going to be a short one.
Yeah. We'll have to work the next few. We're going to have a lot of info, I'm sure, as well, as more 2.1 comes out, and we get to play some of the PTR. So stay tuned. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, on twitch.tv/ArchonTheWizard.
And you can follow us on Twitter at ArchonTheWizard and at 9ballgamer.
And send us your feedback, Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. Check us out on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, all the other sites. I don't know, whatever site you go to, we're there too.
Yeah, I think that kind of about rounds it up. Yeah.
Google us. All right. See you guys.
Bye.